Word. The Deacon. Sakari. 1715. We should have called it 1538. Yeah.
Look, this the Black Holocaust. I knew it was prophecy. 1,000 times worse than the Jewish atrocities. Uneven playing field, there'll never be a fair score. Cause in 1619, that's when they declared war. We the 12 tribes, the ones that the promise reaches. My Negro spiritual, lyrical, honest thesis. I sit back and listen to Khalid Muhammad teachers, or Mr. Garvey, or Malcolm X Islamic speeches. Learning sermons from Dr. John Henrik Clark. Soaking up game until the last minute mark. They destroyed Kemet art, Renaissance iconoclasm. White images of Christ, my mama had them. Went through a metamorphosis, I'm different than before. If they don't let me in the rap game, I'm kicking in the door. Dead bodies all around me like I'm sitting in the morgue. How can you be at peace when you're a prisoner of war? At your job, cracking whips on your back all week. Success came, then they had to bomb Black Wall Street. I'ma echo through eternity. In my grave, they'll remember me. My people need to be delivered and saved from our enemies. So that's why I speak out and push the message. My people are in poverty, nothing to cook for breakfast. And they see this beard and these fringes, we look aggressive. And all the inventions we created, they took the credit. 1715, look at the banner. They're giving you GMOs, I'm feeding the manna. We the real Israelites, we the real Jews, holding the rap game hostage. Nobody better move. 1538, check out the grammar. And if any resistance, bring down the hammer. We the real Israelites, we the real Jews, holding the rap game hostage. Nobody better move. They were scared the slaves would start getting an education. Then Nat Turner picked up the book and got revelation. Then they gave the Jewish and Japanese reparations in 1998 by Reagan and legislation. They never gave us 40 acres and a mule, but they'll kill you with your daughter while you taking her to school. They talk behind your back, then they act all buddy. White supremacy, our daughters think a black dog's ugly. Black churches take all the money they make Sunday to a white bank and deposit it on the Monday, so white land developers can go and get loans, furthering gentrification, buying you out your homes, to push the black community to the suburbs, while y'all worried about Hebrew Israelites saying cuss words. They got rich off free labor with dark slaves. J.P. Morgan, Wells Fargo, and Barclays. 1715, look at the banner. They're giving you GMOs, I'm feeding the manna. We the real Israelites, we the real Jews, holding the rap game hostage. Nobody better move. 1538, check out the grammar. And if any resistance, bring down the hammer. We the real Israelites, we the real Jews, holding the rap game hostage. Nobody better move.
Everyone suffers from police misconduct. Although we deal with our constitutional rights being violated, innocent citizens being arrested, and constant harassment, we sit and do nothing about it. You may be asking, what can I do? Did you know that you may have potentially left hundreds of thousands of dollars floating in the air? Yes, you may have had the rights that you didn't know you have violated. Having your rights violated is more than being abused by the police. Did you know that when you are stopped by police, there is a 75% chance that one of your constitutionally protected rights were violated? The United States Supreme Court have made several rulings making even the smallest of violations by police unconstitutional. Do you know what these violations are? My name is Abaya Israel, and I'm a former police officer and a former sheriff deputy. I want you to download my free ebook and register to take my online video course titled Surviving the Police, so you can learn your constitutionally protected rights. The next time a police officer violates your rights, you will be aware and alert and able to fight back the legal way. Don't be that person who was taken advantage of and you never received compensation because you were unaware. Register for my online video course today, so if you are unjustly targeted by police, you will be compensated. It's time to help put an end to police misconduct. Register today at WeThePeopleUniversity.com.
Shalom Care, grooming essentials for the modern man of color. Shalom Care, grooming essentials for the modern man of color. Paraben-free, peace with care. For beard mousse, armpit mousse, or jock mousse, visit Shalom Care for you.com. Shalom Care.
Brand disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed on this platform by individuals, callers, or invited guests are their own. The information you hear does not reflect the overall views of all parties associated with the brand. We encourage everyone to research all things heard live or via archive for edification purposes. Discretion is advised.
Help keep the show on the air. If you want to help, you can send your donation to PayPal. The email is debatetalkforyou@gmail.com or through Cash App, $Sal Showtime. Thanks for your support.
Shalom, shalom, Shabbat, shalom. You're now tuning in to Debate Talk for You Radio. I am Gabar Alaha, and this is the Sabbath Meal, episode 41. Today, we're going to be getting into latest news and current events from around the world. Before I begin, I just want to give all praises to the Most High Yahweh in the authority of his only begotten Son, Hamashiach Yahweh Shai, who was commonly called Jesus Christ, and to everyone tuning in now, whether it was live or on the playback. May Yahweh keep you and watch over you always. Big shout out to Sal Showtime for allowing us to do our thing here on this platform. You guys see the information scrolling down at the bottom, so make sure you like, share, subscribe, and make sure you stay up to date to what goes on here on Debate Talk for You. So once again, Sabbath Meal, episode 41, going to be getting into latest news and current events heard from around the world. So as you guys all already know, I do this periodically. I pretty much just go over 10 different things that we're going to read over concerning current events from around the world. So we're just going to plug that in once again today, because it's important that we stay in tune with what's going on, because it affects prophecy and how things come to pass. All right. So we need to be in tune with what's going on around the world, as well as be in the scriptures also, because they go hand in hand. All right. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get this started. I already shared the link in the chat, so you guys can come in. You guys can pop in at any moment and join the discussion. Again, this is going to be, when I go over these news articles, it is an open discussion. So you guys can chime in at any moment. Join the discussion if you guys want to come on in. All right. Just want to say Shabbat Shalom to Shirley Greer, Shabbat Shalom, and Michael Paul, Shabbat Shalom, as well as You Talk TV, Shabbat Shalom. All right. Definitely appreciate you guys tuning in. All right. So let me go ahead and get this started. So once again, Sabbath Meal, episode 41, going to be reading over some latest news and current events. All right. So I got 10 articles for you guys going to be pulling up. and we're just going to get this underway. So let's not waste any more time. All right, here we go. All right. So as you guys already know, I report a lot on on the COVID stuff. You know, it's been in the news for so long that you can't help but talk about it now. But we're going to go ahead and read this article here that I have here first. All right. So so this is coming from healthline.com. All right, healthline.com. And you guys see the title. It says experts criticize CDC report on COVID-19 and diabetes risk in kids. All right, real quick, just want to say Shabbat Shalom to Abaya Taylor. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. All right. So once again, experts criticize CDC report on COVID-19 and diabetes risk in kids. Okay. Says here, it says a CDC report found that kids with a SARS-CoV-2 infection are up to 2.5 times more likely to be diagnosed with diabetes. But experts had issues with how the analysis came together. Still, some pediatricians say the findings are worth looking into further. Many pediatricians and public health experts are criticizing a new report from the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention, or CDC, and suggests COVID-19 may increase risk of developing diabetes. The report, published on January 7th, found that kids with a SARS-CoV-2 infection are up to 2.5 times more likely to be diagnosed with diabetes. In reaction to the report, several public health experts have highlighted the study's limitations. The analysis did not account for the childhood obesity, other underlying conditions, medications, race, or ethnicity, and it pooled all types of diabetes together. Still, some pediatricians say the inconclusive findings are worth looking into further. Pediatric hospitals are seeing more children present with new onset diabetes after recently or currently having COVID-19. And some kids with diabetes who acquired the coronavirus are experiencing severe complications that require hospitalization. In addition, other viral infections have been linked to the development of diabetes, though what that means for COVID-19 will need to be studied in the months and years ahead. For me, the report highlights the need for prospective studies and high quality longitudinal research on the effects of COVID-19 on children and the development of diabetes, says Dr. Janice Wong, a pediatric endocrinologist with University of California, San Francisco. Does COVID-19 increase kids' risk of diabetes? Wong says that cannot be answered right now, and it is too early to say that children who tested positive for COVID-19 are at risk of diabetes. Dr. Sarah D. Coithers, an associate professor in the Division of Endocrinology at Cincinnati Children's Hospital, says the CDC study finds the CDC study is an observation report of health claims data, not an explanation of causation. According to Wong, the report did not account for other health conditions, medications that can increase blood sugar levels, race or ethnicity, obesity, or other social determinants of health contributing to diabetes. These factors might influence children's risk of acquiring the coronavirus and diabetes. Other viral illnesses, though a combination of genetic predisposition and environmental triggers have been linked to new onset type 1 diabetes. In general, it's still unclear if viral infections cause diabetes in children, but it's thought that they might trigger the process of type 1 diabetes in those who might already be susceptible, Wong said. Viral infections could potentially trigger the health condition by damaging the cells that produce insulin. Researchers will need to examine all factors, including environmental triggers such as viral infections, genetics, and the immune system that can contribute to the development of diabetes. In the meantime, Crothers advises parents to be aware of new onset diabetes symptoms in children, increased thirst and urination, and unintentional weight loss. What are the pediatric hospitals seeing? According to Crothers, pediatric hospitals globally have recently seen more children with current or recent coronavirus infections present with one type diabetes. A recent report from Romania noted a 16.9% increase in type 1 diabetes diagnosis from 2019 to 2020. Wong says pediatric hospitals are also seeing increased diagnosis of type 2 diabetes in children. This is likely related to change in behaviors increased in weight gain and other stressors have occurred during the pandemic, Wong said, noting that the report does not distinguish this from COVID-19. Can COVID impact symptoms in kids who already have diabetes? Wong says many viral illnesses, particularly those that cause fever, can lead to changes in blood sugar levels in individuals with diabetes. If the infection interferes with the insulin needs in children with diabetes, they may develop diabetes with ketoacidosis, which would require hospitalization. According to Wong, this is a common adverse reaction in children with type 1 diabetes who develop COVID-19. The long-term effects of COVID-19 on kids with diabetes, however, are unclear. We advise our families to monitor blood sugar levels closely with any illness, and some may need adjustment of their insulin doses during this time, Wong said. The bottom line, the CDC released a report this week that suggests children diagnosed with COVID-19 are up to 2.5 times more likely to be diagnosed with diabetes. Public health experts have criticized the report for failing to adjust to other potential contributing factors such as obesity, other medical conditions, and race and ethnicity. Though experts say the report's findings are inconclusive and do not establish causation, many pediatricians say the link between COVID-19 and new onset diabetes in children is worth looking into further. Okay. All right. So that is what we have there for that. All right. All right. So real quick, just want to say, let me come back over here. I just want to say Shabbat Shalom to Emmanuel Mathis. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. All right. So we see here now the CDC came out with a report saying that children are basically 2.5 times more likely to have diabetes after having COVID. Okay, so here's what's interesting because in one of the previous episodes I did here on Debate Talk for You, when I did that year in review, I spoke about how they were saying that, oh well, the children taking the vaccine, they don't even know it's safe. All right, but then we later on showed that even though people are taking the vaccine, people are still getting COVID. So I just want to say to you people that are out there that are subjecting your children to this vaccine, it's not going to necessarily stop them from getting COVID. Hence, it may not necessarily stop them from getting diabetes if this is a thing. Okay. So we just need to be aware of what's going on out here. Okay. So let me move on to the next article now. I think I gotta stop it. Yeah, let me stop that right there. So let me move on to the next article for you guys. All right. So once again, the link is in the chat. If you guys want to join the discussion, the link is in the chat. Okay. So let's go to this next article. We have, what did I put? Experts criticize, and then we have the next one is going to be this one here. Okay. There we go. All right. So this one's coming from CNN. All right, so as you see the title, Walgreens and CVS temporarily close some stores as COVID surges. All right, let's read. So it says two of the biggest retail pharmacies in the U.S. are temporarily closing some stores and pharmacies on the weekends as the latest surge in COVID-19 causes staff shortages. Walgreens said that, like many industries, this latest surge in the Omicron variant is placing a significant strain on its business and in the short term and driving demand unlike anything seen before. In a statement, to CNN on Friday, Walgreens spokesperson Chris Lathan said, while the vast majority of our stores are open and operating with normal business hours, the ongoing labor shortage combined with the surge of COVID-19 cases has resulted in isolated instances in which we've had to adjust operating hours or temporarily close a limited number of stores. When making the decision to adjust store hours, Lathan said that the company makes every effort to minimize disruption for customers by selecting days with the lowest prescription demand. She added that when the company temporarily closes a store, it directs some pharmacy services to the nearest open Walgreens. CVS said on Friday that the lion's share of its stores are opening on their normal weekend hours, according to Mike DeAngelis, executive director of CVS corporate communications. But he noted that a tiny fraction of stores are temporarily closed on one or both days of the weekend to help address acute staffing issues amidst both the Omicron surge and the workforce shortage affecting nearly every industry and company. The adjusted operating hours in these stores are temporary, he said. Pharmacies closing because of staffing pressures is happening across the country, according to Mitchell Rothholz, chief of staff of the American uh, Pharmacists Association. It's a problem across the whole healthcare system, not just in pharmacy, Rothholz told CNN last month. But our members are dealing with this constantly now because of the increased demand for testing as well as COVID vaccinations. People who are wanting to get the boosters or even getting their first doses. Okay. Is there any more on this? And that's it. That's all we have on that. Okay. So we look, even in my field, definitely the yeah, a lot of employees are taking off because this people are getting COVID left and right now, honestly. They're getting it left and right. And even at my job, like a lot of people are not coming in right now. Like, I couldn't even go in this week because because of COVID. I had to work remotely this week. Okay. So it's definitely going around, and we're going to see more stores probably get affected. A lot of kids are not going to school right now out here in California. They'll go 1 week, then they got to take off a week because someone got exposed or someone tested positive, and so on and so forth. So it's been happening a lot recently, as far as and at least the schools as well as jobs. People are not coming in because there's a lot of COVID cases going around right now. Okay. And the CDC, they don't know what to do. They talking about diabetes and this and that. I mean, they don't have a handle on this. They really don't have a handle on this. Okay. They really do not have a handle on this. All right. So once again, the link is in the chat. If you guys want to join any of the discussion, discuss any of these articles that are being brought out, the link is in the chat. Let me put it in there again in case it flooded out, because sometimes when you come in later, you won't see it. So let me put the link in the chat once again. All right, so there it is. The link is in the chat if you guys want to come in and join the discussion. So once again, we are discussing latest news and current events from around the world. Okay, latest news and current events from around the world. So let's come back over here. Let's go to the next article. So next one we have is this one here. Yeah, let's go to that one. All right, so it's the next article. All right, so this is from KTLA 5 News. This is a local news station that's actually in the Los Angeles County. So those of you who live in LA know about this channel. All right, so this is KTLA 5. As you see the title, Salakia. Let me get some water real quick, y'all. I'm getting kind of parched in my throat because I do a lot of reading today. All right, pardon me, y'all. All right, so LA County homeless count delayed again due to Omicron surge. Okay, so let's read this. So it says the greater Los Angeles point-in-time homeless count for 2022 has been postponed to late February due to the surge in cases of COVID-19 caused by the Omicron variant, authorities said Friday. The Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority cited the need to protect the health of volunteers, staff, and homeless people. The count will be conducted February 22nd to 24th instead of January 25th to the 27th. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development requires counts to determine federal funding to address homelessness. The count was last conducted in 2020 and tallied 66,436 living on streets in tents, makeshift dwellings, and vehicles across Los Angeles County. Orange County also rescheduled its count. Sheltered homeless will be counted on February 21st, and the unsheltered count will run February 22nd through the 24th. Okay. So we already know that LA has had a huge homeless problem, right? It's been a huge homeless problem here. But now because of COVID and this Omicron variant that's going around, now they can't do the count. And because now they can't do the count, now it's going to delay any type of funding that's going to come in to actually help these homeless people. Okay. But I mean, they should do the count anyway. I personally think they should just do the count. They should just do the count anyway, because I mean, these folks need help. Okay. These folks need help. There's a big homeless problem in LA County. You know, now I live in Riverside County, and in the part of Riverside County I live in, you know, it's you don't see as much homelessness out this way. You don't see it as often, but definitely down in the city, you see a lot of homelessness that goes on in LA County. And so, you know, now they're going to delay it because of this Omicron variant, okay, that they don't have a handle on. So when February comes around, I mean, if cases keep quote unquote rising, then what, they're gonna delay the count again, you know, or are they gonna get to this because these people need help? I mean, obviously COVID ain't going nowhere for a while, so what, they're just gonna keep stopping it. Okay, so they need to get their priorities in order. All right, so once again, the link is in the chat if you guys want to come in. We are going over latest news and current events heard from around the world. All right, so now let's go to this next article quick. All right, so now where are we at? Now we're gonna go to is it this one? Is this the one? Yeah, this is it right here. All right, so now we're gonna come here. This is from RT News. Astonishing volcanic eruption seen from space triggers U.S. tsunami warning. Okay, so the eruption in the South Pacific was so powerful that it could be seen from space. A tsunami triggered a massive underwater volcanic eruption. Let me read that again. A tsunami triggered by a massive underwater volcanic eruption has hit the Pacific island nation of Tonga and prompted other nations to issue warnings. The sound of the volcano was so loud that it can be heard 800 kilometers away. The underwater eruption from the Hunga Tonga Hunga Ha'apai volcano occurred 65 kilometers south of Tonga's main island of Tonga Fapu. It was so massive that it was clearly visible on images taken by several satellites orbiting Earth, including the U.S. National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. Goes west. It's like, yeah, y'all. I'm like turning my head. I'm trying to read it at the same time, so it's like messing with my vision a little bit. It says it has prompted several other nations, including the U.S., to issue tsunami warnings. Footage on social media shows a giant gray explosion of some smoke rising above the ocean and into the sky. The plumes of smoke, gas, and ash reached an altitude of 20 kilometers, according to the Tonga Geological Services. The ash cloud was also reportedly almost 700 kilometers wide, according to some reports. Okay, and as you see, they have some videos here that they were putting on Twitter. All right, and it says ash fell in the Tongan capital of Nuku Lafa, according to some witnesses, and the sound of the eruption was reportedly heard across the southern Pacific. Loud thunder sounds were heard as far as Fiji, another Pacific island nation located more than 800 kilometers away from the eruption site. Officials said. In New Zealand, a local weather forecast service, Weather Watch, reported that some residents also heard the sounds of a simply astonishing explosion, even though New Zealand is more than 2,300 kilometers away from Tonga. Okay. It says local meteorologist services in New Zealand also recorded incredibly unusual air pressure readings. The only time you might see this is if a tornado passed by a weather station. It said Tonga, Fiji, Vanuatu all have issued tsunami alerts. A tsunami warning also has been issued for the U.S. West Coast, including states of California, Oregon, Washington, and Alaska. The National Tsunami Warning Center in Palma, Alaska said. All right, so it says New Zealand's National Emergency Management Agency said those on the north and east coast of North Island could see unpredictable surges at the shore. Authorities in Australia's state of New South Wales told people to get out of the water and move away from the immediate water's edge. Videos published on social media showed surge waves flooding the Tongan shore and destroying a fence, as well as rushing through some town streets and flooding a local church. It says there have been no reports yet about casualties or property damage. The Saturday eruption was one of the largest in decades, according to some assessments. It was the second in a series of eruptions, with another one recorded on Friday. All right, so Most High is shaking things up. Most High is shaking things up. Okay, so you know, an eruption and a volcanic eruption is powerful enough to where it sounds like thunder. So the Most High is shaking things up. Okay, you know, oftentimes, people here in California, there's this stigma about, we're waiting on a big one to hit California, waiting on a big one, waiting on this big old earthquake to hit California. And the scriptures do talk about how the Most High is going to cause earthquakes to happen. Okay. But that's not the only thing that the scriptures say. The scriptures also talk about the Most High is going to cause thunderings and lightnings and things like that to happen. Okay. There is going to be, there's going to be some strange phenomena and some supernatural events going on with the weather. Okay. So we see the Most High is already giving signs and signals. Okay. So now, what's interesting though is that when you hear that stigma about California and the big one's going to hit and everything, I always say this because I'm from California, and I always say this. I always tell people this that are not from here. I always tell them this. I say, look, I mean, yeah, the earthquake is one thing, but what you really need to be worried about is if the earthquake hits and then it's gonna cause a tsunami. Okay, because the earthquake is not what's going to be damaging to California specifically. It's gonna be the tsunami that comes thereafter. Okay, that's actually gonna hit the shore, because for those of you who are not aware, LA County is actually under sea level. It's actually under sea level. It's a basin. It's built under sea level, so it will flood. It will flood. Where I'm located at, I'm actually out here in the IE. I'm away from the shore and I'm up on a hill. So so this particular area, we have some elevation, because as you come more inland into California, the elevation rises. Okay, but when you down there in the city, when you're down there on the coast, you're actually below sea level. Long Beach, Orange County, LA County, all of that is below sea level. So, Most High willing, for those of us who's keeping the commandments of the Most High and repenting and turning back, we'll be protected in that day. But, whenever the Most High deems it necessary to send a tsunami or earthquake or a fire or whatever through this land, and bring in judgment, like a city like LA is gonna get hit. It's gonna get hit. Okay. So let me pull up with this. So Michael Paul, he says, La Palma volcano is active and erupting daily in Spain and has destroyed lots of property. It is a live broadcast on YouTube now. Yes, indeed. So make sure you guys go and check that out. Okay. So let's go to this next article now. Okay. So all right. So once again, you guys, the link is in the chat if you want to come in and chime in on anything that's being brought out. All right. The link is in the chat. Okay, so now we're going to move on to this next article here. Okay. And all right, so this is from Al Jazeera. All right, Israeli forces violently suppress Palestinian protests in Naqab. All right, dozens of Bedouin Palestinian protesters wounded by Israeli forces who fired rubber-coated bullets, tear gas, and stun grenades. All right. So this is being reported from Bir Al Sabab, Israel. Dozens of Palestinian Bedouins have been wounded in a crackdown by Israeli forces on a protest against continuing Israeli forestation work on land residents say they privately own near the southern city of Bir Al Sabah or Bir Shiva. Or as we know in the Bible, this also is called Beersheba. All right, as it says from Dan to Beersheba, this is the land that they are talking about, and it says some 500 protesters took part in Thursday's demonstration, which began at 3 p.m. They were met with hundreds of Israeli forces who fired rubber-coated bullets, tear gas, stun grenades, as well as sunk water. At least 15 protesters were arrested, according to local media reports. The demonstration took place at an entrance to the Palestinian Bedouin village of Sawa'at at main highway intersection on Route 31 east of Bir al-Sabah or Beersheba. Okay, that's what it's actually called in scripture. This location is called Beersheba. Okay, Huda Abu Ubiyed, a local activist, said the police attacked the protest shortly after it began. They used a lot of violence, beatings. There are people injured and others detained, she told Al Jazeera. The recent escalation began Monday when bulldozers from the Jewish National Fund, a quasi-government agency, arrived with heavy police protection in the nearby village of Al-Atrash and razed Bedouin farming lands in order to plant trees. Israeli officials said the land being planted is state-owned. Bedouin Palestinians protested against the move, and confrontations have continued for days. Videos and images shared on social media showed Israeli forces violently arresting and beating residents who arrived to defend the lands they use for farming wheat and barley. At least 7 people, including 3 children, were briefly detained on Monday, and a local journalist was beaten. On Tuesday, Israeli forces demolished 2 sit-in tents in the villages of Al-Atrash and Al-Sawa, fired stun grenades and rubber-coated bullets, and arrested some 20 people. Villages were also shut off, with residents prevented from entering and exiting. At least 80 Palestinians have been detained since the protest began, including minors, lawyers, told Al Jazeera. The vast majority remain in detention. Marwan Abu Frey, a lawyer representing some of the families and a field coordinator with the Al-Adha human rights group, said there is a clear escalation. It is unprecedented that JNF bulldozers are arriving with this amount of protection. Hundreds of police, special forces, and mounted police. This has never happened here before, he told Al Jazeera. He said police blockaded villages, placed checkpoints, and stopped traffic, prevented people from going home, and school buses to enter and exit, creating facts on the ground. The JNF is mandated with developing and leasing lands for Jews only and owns 13% of Israeli state land. State land makes up 93% of all land in Israel. Abu Frey said that the current JNF forestation work is set to affect thousands of dunams of privately owned Bedouin land in the area of Nakwa El Sabeh, which is home to 28,000 residents living in 6 villages that have never been recognized by the Israeli state. He, along with the residents, said that while many of the families had lived on these lands prior to the creation of Israel in 1948, and some arrived there in the decades that followed, the lands had historically not been registered with the state. Between 1970 and 1979, Israeli authorities allowed residents to file for registration, which they did. But more than 40 years later, their land ownership cases remain open in the Bir Al Sabeh district court with little progress. 99% of cases have not been ruled on yet, Abu Frey told Al Jazeera, adding that the JNF is trying to create facts on the ground. Abu Obied said that the residents' demands are clear. Recognize all the villages that are unrecognized. The first on this list are the ones in the Nakwe Al Sabeh area, she said. Secondly, recognize Bedouin ownership over their lands, which they have owned and lived on since before Israel and before 1948, she told Al Jazeera. Some 300,000 Palestinian Bedouins who hold Israeli citizenship live in the Nakwa region, which makes up about half of the entire country's landmass. More than 90,000 of them live in at least 35 Israeli deemed unrecognized villages under threat of demolition, with the state viewing them as trespassers. In 2019, Israeli authorities announced a plan to forcibly transfer 36,000 residents in unrecognized villages to other townships. Authorities have refused to connect the majority of unrecognized villages to the national electricity or water grids and do not provide them with basic services such as paved roads and sewage systems. Between 2013 and 2019, Israeli forces demolished more than 10,000 Bedouins' homes in the Nakwa. Judaizing the Nakwa. All right. Judaizing. Now, let's really get to the Judaizing. This week's developments come as part of decades-long Israeli government policies to Judaize the Nakwa region through $1 million worth of development projects aimed at enticing more Jews to live in these areas, documented in Israeli official statements and plans and human rights reports. The Israel Land Authority, ILA, which administers the JNF plans to plant some 45,000 dunams in the Nakwa with trees to conserve open spaces and nature from illegal control, according to official Israeli statements. Slack it, y'all. The JNF makes up almost half of the governing board of the ILA, which controls the vast majority of land in Israel. The Israel Land Authority wants to hold land, which is their job. Bedouins are squatters, and one way to make them stop doing that is by planting trees. They subcontract to the JNF to then carry out the work. Alon Tal, an Israeli member of the parliament who worked at the JNF for more than a decade overseeing forestry, told Israeli media. The majority of the land that the JNF acquired from the state took place between 1949 and 1953 and is classified as absentee property belonging to Palestinian refugees who were expelled by Zionist militias during the 1948 war to create the state of Israel. All right, I'll go ahead and read the rest of this. Abu Frey said that while the lands zoned for forestation can be used to develop the unrecognized villages, authorities want to prevent this. They want to concentrate the largest number of Bedouins on the smallest mass of land and to prevent the families from owning and farming their lands. Michael Al Hawashah. Hold on, let me read that again. Michael Al Hawashlai, field coordinator for the Regional Council of Unrecognized Bedouin Villages, agreed. The Naquab makes up about 13 million dunams, 1.3 million I cannot say this word. 1.3 billion hectares of land. There are 300,000 Bedouins living on only 400,000 dunams, 40,000 hectares. So I'm assuming that's supposed to mean acres. Of that, he told Al Jazeera, all of their projects in the Naquab have to pass through unrecognized villages. The state does not want to recognize them or people's ownership over these lands, added Hawashlai. As raising and forestation work on these lands continue, residents have pledged to continue protesting and confronting the heavily armed Israeli forces that arrive every morning. The higher follow-up committee of Arabs in the Naquab, a local umbrella body, and announced a general strike that began on Monday. We took the decision to undertake the proactive measures, beginning with adopting a cumulative resistance program over a period of 6 months that will lead to a regional general strike and a massive demonstration outside the prime minister's office, and the internationalization of the issue to expose the racist practices of Israeli authorities before international institutions, the committee said in a statement. Mobilization is also taking place on a national level, with protests organized on Thursday and Friday in the town of al-Fam in the north, Kufr Kana, and by Palestinian students at Tel Aviv University. They bring all this police because they know that these lands belong to people. Like Abiyah told Al Jazeera, they treat it as though no one lives here, as though this land isn't farmed every year. All right. Real quick, just want to say Shabbat Shalom to Vinny D. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom to Reese. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. And of course, make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe. Okay. So going over this article here, we see look, the Most High's got, this is why the Most High's got a clean house. This is why he's got a clean house and get these so-called Jewish people out of there. Okay. Because we see how they treat the people that come into the land. There's no Torah being exercised in the land. Okay. They're not exercising Torah in the land. They just want the people to get out and they just want to take over. Okay. But in the scriptures, I mean, it does talk about strangers coming into the land and what they can and can't do. Okay. And to my knowledge, there's nothing in Torah that says that strangers who are in the land can't plant crops and stuff. I mean, it's crazy, man. See, this is why when the righteous are in rule, the world is at peace. But when the wicked are in rule, the world is at war. The earth is at war. It's always contention. That's how we know they're not the people, because Isaiah 2 tells you that when the people are in the land, the earth shall not learn war anymore. Okay. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna pull that up. Let me pull it up. Let me pull it up. I'm gonna stop here. Stop here for a second. All right. Let me pull up the scripture. Throw some scripture into this. I don't want to go the whole show without pulling no scripture. So let's do this. Okay. Let's pull this up here. All right. And we're gonna go to make this bigger for you guys. Isaiah chapter 2. Let's go to Isaiah chapter 2 and we're going to start at verse 1. Okay. It says the word that Isaiah chapter 2, verse 1. It says the word that Isaiah, the son of Amos, saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. And it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established in the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it. And many people shall go and say, come ye, and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob. And he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. For out of Zion shall go forth the law and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. And he shall judge among the nations, and shall rebuke many people. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. And nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. O house of Jacob, come ye and let us walk in the light of the Lord. So when the people are in the land, the earth is not supposed to be at war anymore. This is how we know they're not the people. Okay? They're not. They are not the people. All right. Who the people? We the people. Okay. They are not. So until then, we're going to continue to see contentions over there. It's just going to continue to happen. Okay. It's just going to continue because they are not the people. The rightful people are not in the land. So the Most High is not dealing with them. I ain't afraid to say it. The Most High is not dealing with them. All right. But let's continue on. Let's continue on. Let's go back. Let's go back. All right. Let's go back over here. All right. So let's pull up the next article. All right. All right. Let's pull up the next article. So let me see here. Next article we got is this one right here. All right. So following along that same storyline. All right. Real quick, I want to say Shabbat Shalom to Donald Mathis. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. All right, so check this out. UN's war on Jewish Jerusalem, a denial of indigenous rights. All right, so now, I want to be fair. Let's get it from the other side. let's get what the other side has to say. Okay, let's see what they have to say. All right, because when you read like Jewish news sources, they're very biased. All right, but let's just still see what they have to say. Okay, so UN's war on Jewish Jerusalem, a denial of indigenous rights opinion. This is from the Jerusalem Post. Okay, it says the UN's attack on Jewish Jerusalem is simply part of its wider anti-Israel strategy seeking to undermine and delegitimize the only Jewish state in the world. Okay, it says, if I forget thee, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget her cunning. If I do not remember thee, let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth. If I prefer not Jerusalem above my chief joy. All right, this is being quoted from Psalm 137. Okay, it says the psalmist records the lament over Jerusalem following the 6th century BCE conquest by the Chaldeans. From exile in Babylon, Jews cried, how shall we sing the Lord's song in a strange land? These sentiments are an expression of the deep longing for the Jewish homeland and capital, the yearning of an indigenous people for the land of their birth. One would imagine that the long history of Jewish connection to Jerusalem and the depth of feeling the holy city has held in Jewish hearts over millennia would stand as an unassailable evidence of Jewish connection to Israel. Not so for those in the halls of power at the UN. The UN has shown a determination to sever all Jewish association with Jerusalem. This constitutes a denial of history, an infraction against self-determination under international law, and a violation of indigenous rights in ancestral lands. The UN General Assembly recently adopted the Jerusalem Resolution, disavowing Jewish ties to the Temple Mount, referencing it solely by its Muslim name, Al-Haram al-Sharif. This was business as usual at the UN, and the continuation of a campaign to erase the Jewishness of Jerusalem. Indeed, the UN's cultural arm, UNESCO, engaged in the same act of cultural colonization in 2016, then referring to the Temple Mount only by its Arabic name. The Jerusalem Resolution not only neglects to use the Hebrew name for the holiest site in Judaism, but also repudiates all of Israel's claims on Jerusalem. It asserts that any actions taken by Israel, the occupying power to impose its laws, jurisdiction, and administration on the holy city of Jerusalem are illegal. Further, the resolution reiterates that Israel's basic law on Jerusalem and the proclamation of Jerusalem as the capital of Israel were null and void and must be rescinded forthwith, as well as its previous resolutions on Jerusalem. The 1980 Basic Law states that Jerusalem, complete and united, is the capital of Israel, and that Jerusalem is the seat of the president of the state, the Knesset, the government, and the Supreme Court. It also makes provision for the protection of holy places and for the ongoing development of Jerusalem. Israel further strengthened this law in 2018 with the passing of its 14th Basic Law, Israel as the nation state of the Jewish people, Slovakia, in which it reaffirmed, among other things, the land of Israel is the historical homeland of the Jewish people. let me finish first. In which the state of Israel was established. The state of Israel is the nation state of the Jewish people, in which it realizes its natural, cultural, religious, and historical right to self-determination. The law also reasserted that Jerusalem, complete and united, is the capital of Israel. Predictably, various human rights organizations challenged the Basic Law in the Israeli courts, but in July 2021, the Supreme Court largely rejected their petitions, stating that the Basic Law did not introduce anything new, but merely stated the obvious, that the state of Israel is the nation state of the Jewish people. This was the premise on which the state was established, as enshrined in the Proclamation of Independence. The Supreme Court ruling affirmed the constitutionality of the Basic Laws, which recognized that the right to the national self-determination in the state of Israel is unique to the Jewish people, and enshrined principles already evident in regular legislation that reflect the Jewish character of the state. These include the state symbols and emblem, the national anthem, Jerusalem as the state capital, Jewish immigration, holidays such as Remembrance Day for the fallen of Israel's wars, and the Holocaust Remembrance Day. The UN's attack on Jewish Jerusalem is simply part of its wider anti-Israel strategy seeking to undermine and delegitimize the only Jewish state in the world. UN bias is well known, with its demographic makeup largely ensuring an automatic majority for every anti-Israel resolution proposed. The organization's proposition not only flies in the face of 3,000 years of the city's history, but also blatantly contradicts its own position on the rights of indigenous peoples. Okay, I don't want to continue reading this. So I'm actually getting mad the more I read it. So first let me pull Psalm 137, because that's what's quoted in this. So let's see what is Psalm 137 actually saying. Okay, they tried to use that to justify everything that was stated here in this article. Then they're going to say that the Jewish people are the indigenous people of the land. No, you're not. No, you're not. You are not the indigenous people of the land, and history shows that. Okay, you are not the people. You are not the indigenous people of that land. Okay, if you want to get technical, Canaanites are the indigenous people of that land. Let's get real. If we're going to deal with it biblically and historically, the Canaanites were in that land. That was known as the land of Canaan. Okay, it was known as the land of Canaan. All right. Let me stop this for a second so I can pull these scriptures up for y'all. All right, let's go see what Psalm 137 actually says. Okay, Psalm 137. Okay, here we go. All right, Psalm 137. Let me get there. Psalm 137. Psalm 137. All right, this is what Psalm 137 says. It says, "By the rivers of Babylon, there we sat. Yea, we wept when we remembered Zion. We hanged our harps upon the willows in the midst thereof. For there they that carried us away captive required of us a song, and they that wasted us required of us mirth, saying, Sing us one of the songs of Zion. How shall we sing the Lord's song in a strange land? If we forget thee, O Jerusalem, let my right hand forget her cunning. If I do not remember thee, let my tongue cleave to the roof of my mouth, if I prefer not Jerusalem above my chief joy. So look, they stopped there. In the article, that's where they stopped at. Okay. But it continues on. Let's continue, finish reading it. It says, remember, O Lord, the children of Edom in the day of Jerusalem, who said, raise it to the foundation thereof. O daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed. Happy shall he be that rewardeth thee, as though thou as the let me read that again. O daughter of Babylon, who art to be destroyed, happy shall he be that rewardeth thee, as thou hast served us. Happy shall he be that taketh and dasheth thy little ones against the stones. Okay. So they conveniently stopped at verse 6, but forgot to include verse 7 and verse 8 and verse 9. Because the scriptures let you know who it's addressing. Okay. It's letting you know who the daughter of Babylon is. It's saying that it's Edom. It's Edom, Edomites. Okay. But I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to put a pin in it there because I don't want to take it too far. Okay. But we're just gonna go back. Let's just go back. All right. Calling themselves indigenous. Like, these people are crazy. They're indigenous to the land. They're bold enough to say that they are indigenous to the land. Okay. It's what they're saying now. That they are indigenous to the land. It's ridiculous. This is ridiculous, man. Okay, so moving on. Let's go to the next one now. Let's go here. All right. So it says Ukraine massive cyber attack shuts down government websites. All right. This is from Sky News. So Sky News is a mainstream source in the UK. Okay. It's a mainstream news source in the UK. All right. So Sky News. All right. Actually, they have a live stream on YouTube. You can type in Sky News and you can actually watch their live stream, and you can get live news updates directly from the UK. All right. So Ukraine massive cyber attack shuts down government websites. Asked whether Russia was suspected as being behind the cyber attack, a spokesperson said, it's too early to draw conclusions, but there is a long record of Russian assaults against Ukraine. All right. So it says Ukraine has been hit by a massive cyber attack, knocking a number of key government websites offline and issuing a warning to the public to expect the worst. The disruption comes at a time of extreme tensions with Russia, which has massed around 100,000 troops at Ukraine's border. Ukrainian cyber police launched an investigation into the attack and have yet to attribute blame. A spokesperson for the Ministry of Foreign Affairs said it's too early to draw conclusions, but there is a long record of Russian assaults against Ukraine. Websites for the Foreign Ministry, National Security and Defense Council, and government's cabinet of ministers were among those affected. The Foreign Ministry spokesman said, as a result of a massive cyber attack, the websites of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and a number of other government agencies are temporarily down. Our specialists are already working on restoring the work of IT systems, and the cyber police opened an investigation. The government said that the content of the sites had not been changed and no personal data was leaked. We can imagine who was behind it. In a statement, that a number of other government websites had been suspended to prevent the attack from spreading to other resources, but most of those affected were quickly restored. Asked whether Russia was suspected as being behind the attack, the spokesperson said it's too early to draw conclusions, but there is a long record of Russian assaults against Ukraine. The EU's foreign policy chief, Joseph Borrell, condemned the attack, saying he has no evidence who was responsible, but we can imagine who is behind it. An emergency EU meeting has been called to respond, he added. All right. Were any other websites affected? It says the Education Ministry website was also impacted. By midday Ukrainian time, 10 a.m., some of the websites were back online, though the Foreign and Education Ministry website still seemed to be down. Due to the global attack on the night of January 13th and 14th, 2022, the official website of the Ministry of Education and Science is temporarily down, the ministry said on Facebook. Slack. On some of the websites, a text in 3 languages, Ukrainian, Polish, and Russian, all has said all data of Ukrainians uploaded to the network had become public. Ukrainian, all your personal data was uploaded to the public network. All data on the computer is destroyed. It is possible to restore it, the message reads. All information about you has become public. Be afraid and expect the worst. This is for your past, present, and future. So it says, why would Russia be suspected? Russia has repeatedly been accused of cyber attacks against Ukraine, including far more serious cyber assaults, such as targeting critical national infrastructure, such as power. Cyber attacks against websites are much less sophisticated and less harmful form of attack. Russian cyber attacks previously accompanied military support to separatists in the east of the country following Moscow's annexation of Crimea. Western officials have been concerned about possible new cyber attacks as tensions mount over the potential for a new Russian invasion of Ukraine. The targeting of Ukrainian government websites comes at the end of a week of international diplomacy over Ukraine between Russia, the U.S., and NATO allies that ended without agreement, and with both sides signaling worse hostilities could follow. Russia said a dialogue was continuing, but was hitting a dead end as it tried to persuade the West to bar Ukraine from joining NATO and roll back decades of alliance expansion in Europe. Demands that the U.S. has called non-starters. Okay, so just bringing this article out so that way you guys can see that there is a war that does happen. Wars are still going on, just like the scripture says. Let me pull that up. Let me pull that scripture. Like I said, I don't want to keep reading these without pulling up no scripture. So there's always wars and rumors of wars, just as scripture states. Okay, and I'm going to read that real quick. All right, wars and rumors of wars. Okay, Hamashiach Yahushai, who is commonly called Jesus Christ, let us know this. Okay, in Matthew 24. Okay, Matthew 24. Okay, right here, verse 6. And ye shall hear of wars and rumors of wars. See that ye be not troubled, for all these things must come to pass, but the end is not yet. Okay, so there's a lot of wars that do get fought. Okay, all right, we typically focus on the ones that are more general and mainstream, like World War I, World War II, Vietnam War, and so on and so forth. And more recently, 2003, when the U.S. went into Iraq and the war on terrorism. But there's always been wars, even amongst other nations outside of the U.S. That still goes on. As you can see, Russia has 100,000 troops at the Ukraine border currently. Okay, so the tensions are already there. Okay, there is war that is happening. Even if we don't always hear about it, it's still going on. There's always wars and rumors of wars. Okay, so this is just to show you that the scriptures stand true. Okay, they stand true. All right, let's continue on now. Let's go to the next article. Okay, let's go to, where are we at now? We finished this one, and now let's pull up. Yeah, let's go to that one. This one should be interesting. I want everyone to pay attention to this one. All right, y'all, here we go. This is from Associated Press. Fact checkers say YouTube lets its platform be weaponized. Okay. It says more than 80 fact-checking organizations are calling on YouTube to address what they say is rampant misinformation on the platform. In a letter to CEO Susan oh my gosh, man, why do these Gentiles have such weird names? In a letter to CEO Susan Wojcicki published Wednesday, the group say the Google-owned video platform is one of the major conduits of online disinformation and misinformation worldwide. YouTube's efforts to address the problem, they say, are proving insufficient. What we do not see is much effort by YouTube to implement policies that address the problem, the letter says. On the contrary, YouTube is allowing its platform to be weaponized by unscrupulous actors to manipulate and exploit others and to recognize and fundraise themselves. The problem, these groups said, is especially rampant in non-English speaking countries and the global South. The fact checkers are all members of the International Fact Checking Network and include a Rappler in the Philippines, Africa Check, Science Feedback in France, and dozens of other groups. They lambasted YouTube, saying it frames discussions about disinformation as a false dichotomy of deleting or not deleting content. Okay, so why is it? So why is this so important? Okay, why is this so important? Because of what I'm doing now, currently on YouTube, what Israelites do currently on YouTube, as well as various other individuals who are truth seekers who try to put information out there that they don't want you to know. Yes, we do use YouTube as a weapon. You are actually I'll give them that. We have definitely used YouTube as a resource and as a weapon to tear down strongholds that are on this world. YouTube has been used as a means to not only wake up the lost sheep of the house of Israel that are spread throughout the four corners of the earth, but it has also been used as a weapon again to tear down the strongholds and the lies that have been perpetuated for many generations. So now the fact checkers are getting mad. They're like, oh man, YouTube, y'all just let it fly. And then on top of that, a lot of Israelites, look, I'm just keep it a buck with you. A lot of Israelites get views and they make money off YouTube. That's just what it is. They make money off of YouTube actually sharing the information, and they get thousands of views. Once they reach a certain benchmark on YouTube, you can monetize the channel. And that's what Israelites do. Once they reach that benchmark of 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watched hours within 12 months, they begin to monetize. Okay. And so, yeah, that's what's happening. But we need to know about this because we already know that YouTube has had its share in shutting down Israelite channels. Okay. YouTube channels. Okay. They've had their share in doing that. Okay. But apparently that's not enough. The fact checkers are coming and say, hey, I need to really because people are making money off of this. You know, I mean, one of my dear beloved brothers, Abaya, man, he has a channel that we promote on here, We the People University, you know, where he shares information over there about your basic rights and how to encounter the police. Okay. And I remember watching one of his videos, and one of his videos got flagged as man, what was that video flagged as? It was flagged as something that has to do with being basically seditious. It has something to do with that. I got to go back and look at it, but they tagged this video as something being seditious or something. And so I was like, wow, man, they trying to really come for him. So as well as a lot of other YouTube videos a lot of YouTube channels in the Israelite community do get shut down because we have used this as a weapon, okay, in order to slice and dice these lies. And we bring visuals, we bring archaeology, we bring scholarship, and they don't like it. They don't like it. They don't like the fact that we can use YouTube as a weapon and we get paid off of it. they don't like it. Okay. So for those, and like I said, and even then, before I even came into this truth, I watched a lot of truth videos, as far as Illuminati and what goes on with the government and stuff like that. I've watched a lot of those videos. Those videos get a lot of views. And I'm pretty sure those people who have done those videos, who got all those views, have gotten paid off of monetizing it once they reach a certain plateau. So this is just going forward. We got to be aware of this also. Okay. We got to be aware of this also, that they are definitely trying to put a cap on what we do here on YouTube. They're definitely trying to do that. Okay. But the word of the Most High is not going to be stopped. All right. It's gonna go forth. The word of the Most High it's gonna go forth. Okay. So let's continue on. Let's go to next article. Okay. We're gonna pull up. We actually got two more, and then we'll be done. Two more articles, and then we'll be done. Okay. Next one is this right here. All right. All right, from TMZ. All right. Tiffany Haddish arrested for DUI, allegedly asleep at the wheel. Okay. I'm gonna just leave that there for a second, because I mean, the picture speaks for itself. Okay, this is her mugshot. This is her mugshot. Okay, so it says Tiffany Haddish is facing a DUI charge after cops say she was dozing in the driver's seat of her vehicle early Friday morning in Georgia. TMZ has learned. Law enforcement tells us Tiffany was arrested by Peachtree City Police Department officers around 4 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Although she was getting booked for DUI, the comedian still managed to smile for the camera when cops snapped her mugshot. Cops were reporting to a call for a driver who'd fallen asleep at the wheel. Officers had a description of the vehicle and were on the lookout for when they spotted Tiffany pulling into a neighborhood. They stopped her and arrested her for DUI and improper stopping on a roadway. Cops believed she smoked marijuana. Tiffany was only in police custody for a few hours. According to records obtained by TMZ, she posted a $1,666 to bond out of jail around 6:30 a.m. We've reached out to Tiffany for reps. We reached out to Tiffany's reps for comments, but no word back yet. Obviously, it's no excuse for driving impaired, but we do know Tiffany's been dealing with a lot of loss lately. Sources tell us her grandmother, who raised her, recently died, as did her dog, her close friends Bob Saget, and producer Carl Craig. Okay. So why did I even pull this up? Why even pull this up? Why does this even matter to us? Okay. Couple of reasons. One, because for those of you who aren't aware, Tiffany Haddish was actually approached by some Israelites back in 2020. Actually from a congregation of Israelites out here that go by the name of True Nation Israelite congregation. She says Bob Saget. Laughing at Bob Saget. John is funny. John Williams, you funny. I know. When I read that, so I was like, Bob Saget, like, really? But so like I said, Tiffany Haddish back in 2020, she was with Common, and they were this was actually back whenever the George Floyd protests were going on. They were in LA, Common and Tiffany Haddish. They were together, and some young brothers from True Nation Israelite congregation approached them and began to share the truth with them. Okay. And so now Common, I believe, was already made aware years prior. And so they were speaking with Common at first, but then Common had called Tiffany Haddish over so that way she could hear what the brothers was speaking out of the scriptures to them. Okay. So that's why I brought this up, because Tiffany Haddish was made aware of her being an Israelite, okay, by some brothers. That seed got planted. Okay. Now back then, Tiffany, she didn't have this blonde hair and all this stuff going on. Okay. She didn't have all this happening. All right. So we see that since then, 2 years later, just about 2 years later, since that whole George Floyd thing went down. 2 years later, we see the state of Tiffany Haddish. She's got I don't know if that's blonde, silver, white hair or whatever. I mean, that's violation of scripture. You're not supposed to be dyeing your hair that color. You're out there, you're getting pulled over for driving while under the influence at 4 a.m. Yeah, I mean, this is why once you get told the truth of these scriptures, you are now held accountable. So the Most High is not going to let anything go out until his word goes out throughout the four corners of the earth properly. Okay, because Christianity has not spread the gospel. All right, that has not happened. Okay, but as we as children of Israel begin to let people know about this gospel, what the real gospel is, and it begins to go out, okay, now you can't say, well, I didn't know. So when the Most High starts removing his protection from you, and then stuff starts happening like this, what? You need to repent. Okay? Put your natural hair color back in your head, Tiffany. Put your natural hair color back in there, like, for Christ's sakes. Lord, man. And again, Bob Saget. It's Bob Saget. Really? You mourn. Okay. Let me move on. Let me move on, man. Let me move on. All right, last one, you guys. Last one. Let me go ahead and drop the link in the chat one more time in case you guys want to speak on anything. All right, let me go ahead and drop the link in the chat before I bring out this last article. If you guys want to come in and discuss anything that was brought out. All right. So one more article, and we will call it a day. All right. Let's see. Yep, last one. All right. So this is from ESPN. I actually found this interesting. All right. So it says Black basketball coaches hopeful over recent hiring trends for minority candidates. So it says some of America's top Black men and women's basketball coaches said they're hopeful about recent hiring trends for minority coaches, but also know they'll face pressure to win for those trends to continue. After the murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis in 2020, schools around the country vowed to do more to invest in diversity. Last year, more than 51% of the coaching vacancies in men's basketball and 47% of the coaching vacancies in women's basketball were filled by Black coaches. I'm confident it's going to stick in the years to come because my expectation is that we're going to be successful, said Duke's women's basketball coach, Kyrie Lawson, as part of ESPN's Martin Luther King Jr. roundtable that aired Saturday on College Game Day. So I have a lot of confidence in the men and women around the country that have gotten these opportunities. And I think although success has been ignored in the past, I think it's getting harder and harder to ignore the success that minority coaches, specifically African Americans, are having at this juncture, at this time in our sport. North Carolina Central coach Lavelle Moulton said, however, that he worries that the recent hirings across the sport were reactive gestures to the current climate around social justice and diversity in America. A lot of these hirings come at the heels of the George Floyd situation a couple of years ago. And so my thing is always, can these opportunities and can these conversations continue when it's no longer a trending topic, whenever it's not a guilt trip for people to address these needs, Moulton said. Leonard Hamilton, who got his first head coaching job at Oklahoma State in 1986, said the recent trend shows there is a window of opportunity for Black coaches. He also said it's important for Black coaches to continue to mentor one another as they grow. I try to represent some of the positive things I've learned from Dr. Martin Luther King by reaching out and trying to make myself available to help and be involved with counseling and mentoring as many younger, inexperienced coaches and new coaches I possibly can, and hopefully I can contribute to having some success with those guys who are on their way up, Hamilton said during the roundtable. Kyra Elzy, who led Kentucky's women's team to the NCAA tournament last year in her first season as head coach, said she too aims to open doors for others. She said success is the best way to do that. The name of the game is winning, and we have to win. But I think we are cheering for each other to be successful Elsie said during ESPN's roundtable. But at the same time, before we sit in the seat, we have to make sure that we're prepared so that we can have success and that we are being mentored and putting ourselves in position to be ready when our name is called and those interviews happen. The conversation about diversity in college basketball often centers on men's coaches. Lawson said, however, that black women in, in coaching face the same scrutiny and should also be acknowledged in the same conversation. As we continue to gain a stronger voice, as we continue to gain larger platforms, sometimes I'll be honest, I just laugh to myself when people will say, "Oh, well, she's pretty good." I think to myself, what did you think was going to happen? What did you think she was going to be? She's been good. She's always been good. We've always been good. We've always been enough. We've always had the ability to be amazing and to be elite at what we do. All praise to the Most High for her saying that. Because we are a, you know what? Let me pull the scripture. I'm gonna pull the scripture. That hold on. I'm gonna pull that scripture because we are. She is absolutely correct. Okay. We are, and we need to not ever forget that. Okay. Let's not ever forget that, Israel. We are capable, and we do succeed. And here's why. Okay. Here is why. The law tells us that we are. Okay. Deuteronomy 7:6. For thou art a holy people unto the Lord thy God. The Lord thy God have chosen thee to be a special people unto himself above all people that are upon the face of the earth. Okay. That's why Most High made us that way. That's why Most High made us special. He made us peculiar. He gives us abilities to be above, to excel, to prosper. Okay. All we gotta do is be obedient. All we gotta do is be obedient to his commands. And we will be that special people. We will be above. Okay. So those are all the articles that I have for you guys. You guys see the link has been dropped in the chat. If you guys want to join the discussion, if you guys come in, just remember to keep it clean. Debate Talk for You does not condone any foul language, disrespect, or name calling. A violation of those things will have you removed from the platform immediately. So let's make sure we keep the integrity maintained here on Debate Talk for You. Okay. So, yeah, those are all the articles that I have. If you guys have any updates that you guys want to share, definitely come in. We can talk about it. I can pull back up what I previously went over, whatever you guys want to do. I'll hang out for you guys a couple of minutes, see if anybody pops in. Once again, the link is in the chat if you want to join the discussion. All right. I do want to thank everybody that was tuning in today. Let me go through the chat. Let me see what we got here. Okay. All right. So everybody just been kind of hanging out. Okay. I see not too many people in the chat like that today. All right. I do want to say Shabbat Shalom to Yah's son. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. All right. Definitely appreciate you tuning in. Okay. Okay. So once again, the link is in the chat if you guys want to join the discussions. So those are just a couple of the current events that I went over. Of course, there were other things that were going on, with regard to COVID. COVID's got a lot. COVID has a lot of stuff. The Supreme Court, they also they basically shut down Biden from doing that vaccine mandate to private companies that have 100 or more employees. So that got shut down. Okay, so companies can no longer force you to get the vaccine, only if you work in the medical field. Now it's only in the medical field. Okay, but yeah, companies that have 100 more employees cannot force you to take the vaccine. All right, that is a Supreme Court ruling. All right, Supreme Court ruling. Okay, so that is the update. Okay, that is the update. So I know that people were I know I had a couple people reach out to me for exemption letters for vaccination status and all that and everything. So that is something that you do need to be made aware of, that the Supreme Court made a ruling and they did not back President Biden on his vaccine mandate. Now it's only mandated within most medical positions. That is it. Okay. It is nothing outside of that where they can mandate it. All right. I just want to say Shabbat Shalom to Ruach and Hamashiach. Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. All right. Definitely appreciate you tuning in. Okay, so that is what another one of those updates is as well. Outside of that, as far as debate talk for you updates, make sure you guys go to Clubhouse and follow the Clubhouse room DT4U World. Make sure you guys follow that Clubhouse room DT4U World. Okay. Sal, as well as other members of Debate Talk for You, will be doing more rooms over there. Sal's gonna be making his return, and he's gonna be primarily on the Clubhouse side. Okay, so that is the update that I have for you guys. So make sure you guys go follow the Clubhouse room DT4U World. DT4U World, so that way you guys can know when a room goes live on Clubhouse. And even if you don't catch it live, those rooms will be able to be replayed, because Clubhouse now has a replay feature. Well, you can go back and listen to whatever discussions were held on that day. All right. All right, just want to say Shabbat Shalom to Shebrew Light. Shebrew Light, Shabbat Shalom, Shabbat Shalom. Definitely appreciate you tuning in and checking out Debate Talk for You. Okay. So once again, DT4U World on Clubhouse. Make sure you guys go and check that out. Follow, become a member of the club. So that way you guys can be up to date to what goes on. Again, Sal will be over there doing rooms, as well as other members of Debate Talk for You. Okay. So once again, DT4U World on Clubhouse. All right. Can't say it enough. DT4U World on Clubhouse. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and get ready to shut this down. Once again, I do want to thank everybody for checking out this Sabbath Meal Show, episode 41, going over the latest news and current events. Next week, most high willing, we'll be back with episode 40. Oh man, Slakia. Next week we'll be back with episode 42. And I'm still not certain about the topic yet. I gotta go into the archive and see what we have. I may have on a guest. I'm trying to work some things out. I'm actually trying to get Elder Michael Holloway to come on here to a Sabbath Meal Show, so that way we can have a discussion about some things. And I got another guest lined up, but that'll be later on before I hit episode 50. Trying to get them to come on to have a discussion about the Trinity. Okay. So trying to get those things lined up. In the meantime, if you guys want to come on, drop a lesson, have a dialogue about something. If you guys want to try to set up a debate with somebody, definitely reach out. The contact information is, of course, scrolling at the bottom of the screen, is in the description, so you guys can reach out. Okay, we can do the debates or the dialogues on either platform, Clubhouse or right here on YouTube, right, as well as Facebook Live. Okay, so we have platforms where these things can be held at. All right. He said, I'm still hoping for that Biden $20 Harriet Tubman tip. I mean, let me pull this back up, because look, I've been waiting on reparations. I don't think it's gonna happen though. But so I mean, because I know with the way things are going on right now with this COVID stuff, I mean, they definitely don't want to do another round of stimulus check. They're really trying to avoid that. They really are trying to. But I don't know how that's gonna come to pass. So we'll just see what happens. But I definitely appreciate y'all, man, just hanging out with me today, man. And just tapping in and getting the latest updates. So I'm gonna go ahead and get ready to sign off. You already know me. I don't like to stay on for too long to keep you guys here. And so, most high willing, be back next week. I have nothing further to say. May Yahweh keep you and watch over you always. I bid you all a farewell and Shabbat Shalom.